Hello everybody, my name is Helen. Welcome back to my channel, kind of. This isn't going to be the start of any regular videos per se. I don't have any set schedule whatsoever, but about 4 or 5 days after I posted my taking a break from YouTube video, which thank you so much for your positive feedback, by the way, means a lot, I had the brilliant idea because Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, starring Brandy and Whitney Houston, had come out on Disney Plus not long after, in the US, I might add, not in the UK. Ranting about release dates on various things is going to happen on another day, I promise. I thought, since I have seen so many adaptations of Cinderella, and it is one of my favorite fairy tales, that I would get dressed up, as you can see with my long, flowy sleeves and my tiara that I bought for my wedding and has been sitting in storage. I have to use it every once in a while. Hooray. I, yours truly, am going to take on the unenviable task of ranking all of the major Cinderella adaptations. And yes, there are a lot, more than you would think. Now, of course, as we all know from all the tier lists of yore, we are going to be ranking them from S tier down to D tier. Let's go a little bit through what each of them means. S tier, we all know this. It is the perfect adaptation, the perfect film, or the film that knows exactly what it is, which is also a perfect film if you think about it. These are movies that they bring me joy, unabashed joy, every single time I watch them. A tier entries on this list they're very good, they're very well-made movies, everything generally looks very good, it's a well-told story, there just isn't that extra factor for me. It's missing just that little special ingredient, So it's very good, it's just not, the best. B tier, very middle of the pack, shall we say. It is the average Cinderella film. It more or less gets the basic points of the fairy tale across, doesn't really necessarily do anything quote-unquote original or outstanding with them, but it exists. I didn't hate myself watching it. That's B tier. A C tier is just generally a not very great entry in the Cinderella canon, if you will. Maybe there were a couple moments that redeemed it for me. Maybe there was a couple aspects that I thought were interesting, but in an overall messy movie. D tier is just, unforgivable, shall we say. It's very bad. There's not really anything redeeming about it. There's a few of these that once I put them in there, you will understand why they are there. But anyways, and before I begin, I don't have a list of things to tick off. I'm not going to be rating them based specifically on, the dress or the casting. There are things that I may mention, but I'm not grading them on specific elements because they are all quite different adaptations. And spoiler alert, this list is going to be maybe a bit biased. But my video, my opinion, my ranking. So without further ado, let's get started. So first up, we have Cinderella 1950. This is the one that everyone knows about. Everyone probably grew up with it. I know I grew up with it. I know that there's a Walt Disney World advert that plays before the movie on VHS that is just etched into my brain. That is how often I watch this movie. It's fun. The songs are great. The animation is stunning. It saved the studio from bankruptcy. We appreciate that. However, just because it's the first doesn't really mean it's the best, does it? It's okay. The animation is great, but there are certain things that I think are lacking a bit. For example, our protagonist, who, despite being the titular character, doesn't seem to be the main one. So, Cinderella, great classic dress, classic animation, classic songs, a little bit lacking in the female protagonist. I'm going to put it in B tier. It's just okay. I don't hate myself watching it. I'm sure I loved it when I was little, but better things have come along since. And so, yeah, we're just going to plop it in B tier for now. Sticking with this specific franchise, Cinderella 2 Dreams Come True. It's D tier. It is the Disney sequels really at its worst. It doesn't really add anything new. We get to see human Jacques, which we did not ask for. Lucifer gets a girlfriend? ? And, yeah, it's going straight in D tier. I don't really have anything to say. It's a nice Saturday morning children's cartoon. we could have skipped it. It is the Cars 2, if you will, of the Cinderella franchise. Now, moving on to Cinderella 3. Oh, goodness. If you've been on the internet in the past 10 years, well, you know what this is about. Cinderella is celebrating her first anniversary with the prince. They are happily married, and the fairy godmother's wand is inexplicably stolen by Anastasia, who is the sympathetic one in this version. She was a bit in the second one as well, but it's much more well done here. And yeah, the stepmother decides to turn back time and try to sabotage Cinderella's efforts by putting forth Anastasia. Now, we have all seen the memes. The best aspect about this movie is the prince. The prince has so much more of a personality. He's quite goofy in this one, which is nice. I still don't think he has a name in this one, which is real interesting, but hey. Cinderella 3, I had heard great things about this. I didn't watch it for the first time until 2 weeks ago. It was hyped up for me, and I found it really just, it was just okay. It's going in B tier. You know, there were some standout moments in it, but the rest of it was just a bit boring. Cinderella is a much more active protagonist in this one, which I think is a step up from the previous two movies. You know, I am going to put it in A tier. It does get extra points for completely ignoring all of the events of Cinderella 2, just like the rest of us. We're going to move from the sequels to the official Disney-sanctioned remake, Cinderella 2015, starring Lily James. Coincidentally, this was on TV not too long ago, but I went and saw this in theaters with my family, despite the fact that there was the Frozen Fever short in front of it, which wasn't exactly frozen out yet, but I soon would be. I really enjoyed this version. I think it looks absolutely beautiful. The performances are lovely. Lily James is a nice, lovely Cinderella. The prince finally gets a name in this one. Richard Madden is very good as Prince Kit. We have to talk about Cate Blanchett as the stepmother because, I mean, Cate Blanchett is she's just brilliant in everything. And of course, as a bisexual, I am obligated to stan. I must. Gorgeous costume design as well. This is a big, beautiful dress. They did have to apparently get her down to a 17-inch waist to fit in it, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I do enjoy this a bit more than the original film and a little bit more than Cinderella 3. So it's not quite S tier for me. It's very well made, very competently made. It's not as big of a stain on the trend of live action remakes as the other films. Cinderella is something that has been done so often that a live action remake of this has a little room to be a bit more original. Now, we are moving on to Ella Enchanted. Now, you may ask, why is this here? This isn't a typical Cinderella adaptation. Well, to that I say, this is based on a book for children called Ella Enchanted, book of the same name, by Gail Carson Levine. And this was, in her words, a different sort of take on the Cinderella tale. So we do have some of the typical Cinderella story beats in here. Ella's mother dies when she's young, and Ella's father remarries to a not so nice stepmother and two ugly stepsisters. But what makes it different here is that Ella, from birth, is given the gift of obedience by the fairy Lucinda. So whenever someone gives her an order, she has to obey that now. The movie, in name and apart from a few character names, is almost nothing like the book, but the movie is just so good. Anne Hathaway, Hugh Dancy, just carry this movie. They are so wonderful and so likable in this movie. And this movie is just funny. It has everything that you want. It is a fairy tale parody. You have out there dance numbers. You have Anne Hathaway giving probably the best cover of Queen's Somebody to Love since the original. And you also have the movie ending on a big giant dance number set to Elton John's Don't Go Breaking My Heart. This movie is so self-aware. It's so funny. It has an all-star cast and it has so much heart. Some of the special effects are a little bit iffy, But I really have no other reason to do this other than just I adore this movie with every fiber of my being. But it is going in S tier, and I'm not going to defend it. It's just it just needs to be there. I feel in my heart. It just brings me so much joy every time that I watch it. All right, next up, we are going to dive into another series of films in 2000, and I think it was 2004, 2003, around the same time as Freaky Friday. A movie called A Cinderella Story, a modern take on the story starring Hilary Duff and Chad Michael Murray, was released. It follows Sam, a orphan of sorts whose father has died and left his diner apparently to her stepmother and her two stepdaughters. As far as this entire franchise goes, and we will get to the later entries, don't you worry, this is genuinely good. You know, I enjoy it when it is on TV. I think that Jennifer Coolidge steals the show as the ugly stepmother. And of course, we do have Regina King in the fairy godmother role. I think we all wish that Regina King could be our fairy godmother, but I digress. However, if we're going to compare it to other teen movies of the era, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. But, you know, it's a good update. Cinderella has her own goals beyond just ending up with the guy she likes. She really wants to go to Princeton, and her goals for Princeton are the thing that her stepmother tries to quash rather than her chances of getting with the popular guy, although that is part of it. Sam is a pretty likable character. We do have the trope of the GBF, but it's not as egregious, I guess. I don't know. So it's competently made. It's not really doing anything different aside from being a modern take on Cinderella. It's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. I'm going to go ahead and put it in B tier. So we come to the second entry. I should note, before we move on to this one, that A Cinderella Story, the original one, came out when I was just getting into Disney Channel. So I knew who Hilary Duff was because of Lizzie McGuire, but I didn't really get into Disney Channel. She wasn't like my Disney Channel idol. I was a bit too young for that to be the case. Not so with another Cinderella Story, which stars Selena Gomez and Drew Seeley as Mary Santiago and Joey Parker. Mary is the orphaned daughter of a former backup dancer of a former pop star named Dominique Blatt, who is played excellently by Jane Lynch. Hurrah, she eats this role up. There is, of course, as I mentioned, her being the daughter of a former backup dancer. Mary's passion is dancing. So there's actually a lot more music in this movie, which kind of livens things up a little bit. And I do have a couple of the songs from this. Tell Me Something I Don't Know is brilliant, and I love it. Overall, I just enjoy watching this. It's probably about the same quality objectively as the first Cinderella Story, but I think my nostalgia for it is going to put it just into A tier. Actually, I think I am going to put it above Cinderella 3. Another Cinderella Story, lovely. I enjoy it. I think it's quite good, and the music is quite good too. So now we move on to this movie conveniently came out after I was more or less done with Disney Channel. However, I do know who Lucy Hale is. I've seen bits and pieces of this. It was fine. Nothing super memorable. I would put this in B tier because I do believe it is quite competently made. And Missy Pyle is another great casting choice to be the stepmother. However, about a year before that, when I was in high school and obsessed with another Cinderella story, I came up with my own version of A Cinderella Story 3, wherein my main character would be a singer who was trying to meet her idol, a prince, a pop star, whatever that character is. And then a couple years later, this movie came out, and I do resent it a little bit because it did steal my idea, you know. Well, it didn't steal it, but it is going in C tier. I never told anybody about these ideas, but I just feel like, well, I can't do that anymore. But apparently, we still can. So we're going to go to these next couple of entries here, and I'm going to group them together. We have A Cinderella Story 4, If the Shoe Fits, starring Sophia Carson. And I believe Jennifer Tilly is the stepmother in this version. And it's a musical. I mean, a real musical. Apparently she's trying to become a musical theater actress, question mark. I've seen bits and pieces of this, and I've read the plot on Wikipedia, but I'm just not interested. I'm sorry, it's going in D tier. It just has to be down there. Points for being better than Cinderella 2 Dreams Come True. And then we have a fifth entry that I did not know about until I looked this franchise up on Wikipedia to include it in this ranking. A Cinderella Story, A Christmas Wish, starring Laura Marano and Greg Sulkin. Now, they have both done pretty good work. I liked Laura Marano quite a bit in Lady Bird, but we've gone full Hallmark Christmas movie here. I have to put it in D tier. I didn't even bother to watch. I just read the Wikipedia plot and oh goodness. So that's that franchise out of the way. Hooray. Now, we actually watched Ever After recently. We watched it on Valentine's Day because, of course, this is a classic. Ever After, I feel like, is one of the definitive Cinderella movies, and I do have to agree. I love the performances in this one. Drew Barrymore is wonderful as Danielle de Barbarac, the Cinderella of this particular story. It is set in a realistic interpretation of the French Renaissance period. The prince in this movie, the Prince Charming, is the actual Prince Henry of France. Of course, this takes a lot of historical deviations. Leonardo da Vinci shows up in the fairy godfather role, I assume. I really have nothing bad to say about this movie. I really do enjoy it. It doesn't necessarily have that special spark for me, aside from the brilliant performance of Angelica Houston as the stepmother. She eats every scene that she is in, chews every last bit of it. But I think it's very well competently made. I think I do like it better than the official Disney remake, so I will put it at the top of A tier for now. Genuinely worth a watch if you haven't seen it already. It's wonderful. The costume design is exquisite. It's on Disney Plus right now, so if you have a moment and you just want like a nice romantic date night with your partner, there you go. It's really good for that. Next up, we have one that I forgot about until quite recently. This is called Rags, and it's kind of like Cinderella Story, Once Upon a Song. This is a Nickelodeon original movie that I believe came out in 2012, starring Max Schneider, aka Max of Lights Down Low fame. Love that song. And of course, starring my girl Keke Palmer. Now, she is the Princess Charming in this version. This is a gender-swapped version. It is still very much a Nickelodeon original movie, but I do like that, one, the roles are swapped, the gender roles are swapped here, and also it's nice to see an interracial relationship happening, and it does have a really nice message about not being afraid to be yourself. That being said, it is still quite a bit cheesy in parts and was a little bit cringe, so I am going to put this in C tier for now. Not terribly great, I don't think, but it's perfectly serviceable. Actually, no, let's move it up to B tier. Right, Into the Woods. Into the Woods. Oh my goodness. I was a bit conflicted about putting this on the list because of all the movies on this list, this doesn't really have the Cinderella story at the center of it. However, Cinderella is a major character in this movie, so despite not being focused on it, the typical Cinderella tale for the whole runtime, I did feel the need to put it on here. And to be fair, Anna Kendrick does give a great performance. We do have Chris Pine as the wonderfully handsome and also not very faithful Prince Charming. They both give stellar performances. Agony makes me laugh out loud. However, this would be an upper B tier, lower A tier entry, but it does have James Corden in it, so I am going to have to put it down in C tier. So, sorry, not sorry. I don't make the rules, I just enforce them. Now, the final three down here are all adaptations of the Rodgers and Hammerstein musical Cinderella. I am also not including the 2013 Broadway production of Cinderella, as that's not really a filmed version, and also it's inferior to all of these, sorry. We're going to start off here with the original Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella starring Julie Andrews. This premiered in 1957. It was a musical written for television by two amazing theater great. Julie Andrews would, of course, go on to star in a film version of another one of their musicals, The Sound of Music. I quite like this. The songs are nice. The performances are appropriately stagey. This is very much more of a play filmed on camera than it is an actual movie. This is more in line with the NBC musical live productions of, say, The Sound of Music or The Wiz as of late. So it's more in that category. It's still lovely. The songs are nice and great. Julie Andrews sings them wonderfully. This is pre-Mary Poppins, 7 years pre-Mary Poppins, mind you. So why anyone saw this and didn't think that she would have the appeal to be Eliza in the film version of My Fair Lady is beyond me, especially because 100 million people watched this. Now, as to the quality of this production, it does feel a little bit dated. Some of the delivery is a little bit dated, and it does have the misfortune of only surviving in a black and white kinescope as opposed to its original color broadcast. So a lot of that vibrantness that may have been carried in the original broadcast is unfortunately lost, and I do have to judge it on what I've seen. I love you, Julie. I really do. But I think I am going to have to put this just above Cinderella Story, Once Upon a Song. It's a very good movie. Did I just place this? No, you're right. I do have to put Rags back down in C tier and Julie at the bottom of B tier. It just wouldn't seem right, you know? It's fine, it's serviceable. I don't think it's aged as well as it could have. Now, we're going to the second iteration of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. This one came out in 1965. It starred Leslie Ann Warren at age 18 in her screen debut as Cinderella and Stuart Damon as the prince. We also had Celeste Holm and we had Ginger Rogers as the queen. This is in color, has a much higher budget and of course was better preserved than the original one. And I believe this is the one that most people older than me grew up with. So that being said, I think the performances are lovely. Leslie Ann Warren is very sweet as Cinderella, but I just can't get over the Lawrence Welk feeling that I have around this production. Again, it is more of a play that has been filmed than it is a movie. So I do have to take a bit of points off for that, but it does survive in a bit higher quality. I just wish that the color palette wasn't so drab. So we are going to put this in upper B tier for now. And that, of course, leaves the one, the only, this is the one that you came here for. 1997, Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, starring Brandy and Whitney Houston. Let's be honest, this is the reason that I'm making this video. What has not been said about this movie? It's wonderful. The songs are so much more vibrant. The additional songs that they added, they feel so seamless in the way that they fit in. I would have had no idea that Sweetest Sound and Falling in Love with Love and There's Music in You were not part of the original score. And I think it was such a smart move to pull from the other elements of the Rodgers and Hammerstein catalog. The performances are brilliant. I love Brandy as Cinderella. Whitney is the fairy godmother that we all want. I do miss her so much, but the rest of the cast is amazing too. Paulo Montalban, our Filipino prince, is wonderful. I love his singing voice. He is charming absolutely all the way through. We have Whoopi Goldberg and Victor Garber as his parents, the king and queen, who are just absolutely wonderful. They are both hilarious. They play off each other so well. Jason Alexander as Lionel, who is a new character created for this production. I wish more people knew about what a great song and dance man that Jason Alexander is, because he's so great in this role and in the 95 movie of Bye Bye Birdie. If you haven't seen that yet, we have to talk about Bernadette Peters. They added a song just for Bernadette Peters, because when you cast Bernadette Peters, you're going to have her sing, obviously. And then, of course, we have Natalie Desselle Reid, rest in peace, and Vianne Cox as the two stepsisters, Minerva and Calliope. The casting is so great. There was so much money poured into this for a television movie. It cost $12 million to make it. These sets are gorgeous. The costumes are amazing. It transports you. I love this movie so much with every fiber of my being. I bought the well, I didn't buy the VHS, but this has just been in my memory. There's never been a time where I haven't owned this movie. We had it on VHS when I was little. I bought it on DVD when I was a grown-up. It gives me joy just for every single second of it. And you know what that means? It means that it has to go in A tier. There's just no other place for it to go except for the actual original cast album being released. Please, Disney, make it happen. If Disney can put this movie on Disney Plus, hopefully it will be finally on Disney Plus in the UK by the time this video goes up, they can somehow get the rights and remaster this soundtrack album because we deserve this so much. All right, so that is this tier list. Is there any change that I would like to make? Seems weird to have Cinderella 3 in A tier, but really it's where it deserves to be at this point. Sorry to put you so low down the rankings, Julie. Into the Woods is where it should be. Yes, this all looks very correct to me. So, with that being said, what is your individual ranking? Are there films that I did not include on this list that you think should have been? Let me know in the comments down below. This is a template that I made in Tier Maker, so if you would like to go make your own, you can. I will put the link to that in the description below as well. I don't know when the next video I will be uploading is. I just really wanted to make this, and I will make another video when I have a good idea for it. I like this arrangement a bit better. If you would like to check out some of my past Women in Film reviews, which is a series that I enjoyed doing but ended not very long ago, you can check that out as well. If you'd like to follow me outside of YouTube and let me know what you think of this over there, you can follow me on Twitter at HelenMarie95. You can follow me on Instagram at HelenMarie_95. or on my Facebook page at facebook.com/HelenGroothuisWriter. All of those will be in the description down below. You can also subscribe to my second channel because who knows, I may start putting out content there too. In any case, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Remember to keep living awesome lives. Go watch a bit of Cinderella to brighten up your day, and I will see you all soon. Bye.